Abbey. And if you go behind the art gallery, you can see some black gates there on the right hand side of the art gallery. You'll find yourself in the grounds of St Mary's Abbey, massive wealthy Benedictine, and that became a public park on the 2nd of January 1961. And there you'll find the Yorkshire Museum, St Mary's Abbey, St Olave's Church, and some Roman remains as well. Romans initiated York, they founded York. And the evidence suggests, the archaeological evidence, nature essentially, Druids. Now the Druids, they were their kind of, their religious people, and they actually had sacred oak groves in Anglesey. And the Romans went after them because they went, when they arrived here, they thought, if we're going to sort of despoil their religion, that gets at the roots of their heritage really. But they went up to Anglesey and started knocking down oak trees. They were covered in mistletoe, and that was actually called Mona by the Romans. So when the Romans arrived here, they gave everything a name. And there's a huge battle between Boudicca's Iron Age tribe and the Roman army. The Battle of Watling Street it's called. Nobody knows where it was, but what I do know is the Romans won, and that was the end of that. And you don't get very much more, opposition to the Roman invasion at that point. And within 200 years, the people here are called Romano-British anyway, and by 306 AD, they embraced Christianity. So that, the Romans, when they arrived, they worshipped different gods. The indigenous tribes were pagan, but eventually they all become Christians. The Colwyn's of Tudor there, early Victorian, or 1840s, and a cathedral, and it can be both. And I'll tell you what that means in a minute. But if you look right here as we turn left, you'll see the next city gate, and it is called Monk Bar. I'll tell you shortly why they're called bars. Minster Ministerium, seat of learning. Learning about, the Gospels and the Word of God. Believe it or believe it not. It's a personal decision really. Cathedral, cathedra, seat of bishops or archbishops. In the case of York, it is archbishops. Stephen Cottrell. Now, why are the city gates called? Prior to that, it's Saxon. It's called the Offerwick. Prior to that, it's Roman. It's called Iborca. And the legacy of the Norse occupation, street names, gates of Garter, which there are things like Swinegate, the street of the pigs, Spurriergate, the street of the spurmakers. That's what they mean. So after that, you get the Normans, 1068, and they think, well, we'll build these defences. And they built the defences in stone, because when the Normans arrived, they were made out of wood. Rebuild them in stone, initially the gates and subsequently the walls. And then they obviously think, well, what are we going to call these gate things? Because York's full of streets called gates. If we do that, that would be somewhat confusing, would it not? So they don't call them gates at all, they call them bars. But they don't call them bars initially because their original name was Lith, Lith. So the gates were originally called liths and they are now called bars. They've never been called gates, and that's because that is a word used to describe lots and lots of streets. I thought we'd get stuck here, and we're not going to get stuck here at all, are we? The Romans almost certainly picked York because of where it sits physically, and it's between two rivers, so it's in a good place from a defensive perspective. Underneath us is one of them. Turned into a canal in the 1780s to try to control the flooding. If you look on the right, in the wall of the church you're looking at, to the left of the window there, that's Roman stone, recycled Roman, and that's the St Cuthbert's Church. Now the whole lovely gardens, go and have a look, they don't mind. On the left, Black Swan Pub, and that building, the correct name for that is Bowes House, and it's about 1500, they say 1417, but they do say circa, and that means approximately, which means they don't know. And timber frame buildings, unless they are recorded in the records, and some of them in York are, we don't know when a lot of them were built really. And timber frame buildings, they change styles throughout the years, and they're notoriously difficult to date actually, but you can actually get a date for the wood in dating, dendrochronology, and you can work out when the tree was felled, and it's like magic really. But you can do that, but if you can tell when a piece of wood was felled, when it stopped growing, doesn't necessarily tell you when the building was built. If anybody wants